In this video, I'm going to show you how to sew a bust dart. So the first thing to do is to make sure that you've marked the bust dart on the wrong side of the fabric. So there's my blue lines, and I've marked that from the pattern. The next thing to do is to think of which way you're going to sew. So you're going to sew from the wide part towards the narrow part. So when I pin this, I want to pin it like this so that it's easy for me to take the pins out as I'm busy sewing. Then you're going to start pinning, and you want to make sure that the blue lines are on top of each other. So if I put this pin in through this blue line here, it needs to come through the blue line on the other side as well. So this one I need to move a little bit. Just bear in mind that these two seams over here don't necessarily have to line up with each other because you're creating shape in the garment. So sometimes they will be at a slight angle. So I'm going to pin this one. My next thing is to pin, just keep that on the edge there. Next, I'm going to pin the point. So I make sure that I've got the point here nice, because this is where I'm going to end. And I'm going to take one stitch off the fabric. So I'm not going to do a back stitch at the end. So I'm going to put a pin here so I know when I'm going to come to the end. Now I need to put a lot more pins in to make sure that these two blue lines are lying exactly on top of each other. So I'm just going to keep pinning, putting the pin through the blue line on this side and making sure that it comes through the blue line on that side. So I need to move this one slightly. Let's do another one over here. So just keep checking as you go, because it's very, very important to get this as accurate as possible. And then the main trick to do is if you basically sew exactly on the blue line, you'll be totally fine. If you go off it, then we can have some problems. So you're basically going to sew exactly on the blue line, starting at the top here with the back stitch and sewing down to the point, ending with one stitch off the fabric, and then we're going to tie knots. So I've sewn in my dart, starting with the back stitch and going on that blue line and ending with my threads over there. And we can just look at the back. It went slightly off the blue line, but it's very, very slight, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. And it's still pretty straight, so there I feel like it's going to be okay. I know this is viscose, so it's very, very slippery. So here at the end, you'll just have to separate your threads because sometimes with sewing they become twisted at the end. So just separate those threads, and then I tie 3 knots just to make sure that it's nice and strong. So 1, 2, 3 knots separately like that, because then you know that you can get the knot nice and close to that end there. And then we're going to cut it off, but I'm going to give it a little bit of space. So I'm only going to cut it off about 5 mils away from that end there, because I don't want that knot to come undone in the wash. And now I'm ready to iron my dart. It's very important to look at the shape here. So basically towards the end of the dart, you almost go parallel to the fold line, because that will allow a nice dart looking on the other side. So if I iron that now, that'll look nice and pretty. So you don't want, if you've got like a little indent over there, then you need to go back to your shape and make sure that it's very smooth towards the end and not going off at a sudden angle, because that will affect your dart. When ironing your dart, you must make sure that you don't go and iron this whole thing completely flat now, because you created a shape there, so you want to keep that shape. So an ironing board actually has a curve on the end, so you can either use this or at some type of pillow to get the curve. So you want to put the point of the curve of the dart at the end of the ironing board, and then you're going to iron your dart nicely, and you're going to iron this so that it goes down towards the body. So there's my sleeve, it goes down like that. So you iron it using this as your guide, so that you don't make your dart completely flat.